Good evening and welcome into Sports Talk on a Budget. It is Tuesday, January 14th, year of our Lord 2025. That's three in a row. I haven't said 2024 yet. Little surprised that I haven't said that, but still, year of our Lord 2025, January 14th. Before I go ahead and dive into my show, and it's going to be all NFL show today, but before I do, just want to remind you, as always, if you like the video version, please like and subscribe on this channel on here on YouTube, right down here. Smash that like, smash that subscribe, leave a comment with some of your picks for the weekend, some constructive criticism, whatever you'd like to see. But like and subscribe to the show right here under Sports Talk on a Budget. If you prefer the audio version, however, it is available on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. Please like and subscribe there as well. But let's go ahead and look at our show. So like I said before, this show is going to be an all NFL show. This is going to be my divisional round preview and picks. Going to do a little reaction to the wild card weekend that just finished up last night with the Vikings-Rams game, but going to look mostly ahead to this divisional round weekend. We are 2 rounds away from the Super Bowl, so this is a big weekend, a lot of big games I want to break down here in a couple minutes. But let me go ahead and react just to a couple of things that I saw this past weekend. And how did Alabama and Ole Miss not get into the NFL playoff? You know, there's all these blowouts. Should be more SEC teams right now, kid, for my college football fans. But looking back at these games, a couple of things stood out to me. I want to start with the Sunday night football game, and that was the Commanders and Tampa Bay Buccaneers game. My goodness. Jaden Daniels and this Commanders team. I took them +3. They didn't just cover, they won the game. Went down to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has won the last 4 division titles in the NFC South. So this is a perennial playoff team. This is an above-average team that you're playing in Tampa Bay. You went into their house, which isn't the hardest place to play, Tampa Bay, but isn't exactly the easiest place to play. You went in their house. You scored early. You pushed them around a little bit. You did a lot of what you wanted to do on the offensive side with Jaden Daniels running and throwing to Terry McLaurin. Zach Ertz had a pretty big game as well. But I was thoroughly impressed with the performance of that Washington Commanders team with Jaden Daniels. He's a star. You can argue he's probably top 3 quarterback in the NFC right now. You can make a pretty strong argument for that he's already a top 3 quarterback in the NFC. And hats off to them. Huge win. Let's just put into perspective this Washington franchise. This was a pretty close to dead franchise. Dan Snyder had left this franchise for dead. They had been wandering the wilderness for decades at this point. This was their first playoff victory since January of 2006. Just think about the people who were alive that long ago, how long ago that feels. I was in junior high. I'm 31 now. That'd be 32 in a couple of months. I was in junior high the last time the Washington franchise won a playoff game, coincidentally in Tampa Bay as well. So that's kind of an interesting tidbit there. But hats off to this organization and this team. Dan Quinn's done an incredible job. Cliff Kingsbury's doing an incredible job with the offense. The defense is actually playing pretty well down the stretch as well. And Jaden Daniels. When you draft a quarterback like that, it changes your franchise and it changes the momentum of your franchise. Quarterback is probably the most important position, not just on the field, but off the field. I think it seems like it could be more important than head coach in the NFL at this point. So they found their franchise quarterback. They found their head coach. Hats off to them. They're moving on the second round. I will break down that game a little bit later, but hats off to the Commanders. Just thoroughly impressed with the season that they've put together. 13-5 right now with the playoff win. Thoroughly impressed. I want to get to some quarterbacks that underwhelmed this Sunday as well. And I want to look at Jordan Love of the Green Bay Packers and Justin Herbert of the LA Chargers. We're going to start with Herbert. I'm a big fan of Justin Herbert. I think the talent he has, his size, his skill, he could run well. Justin Herbert is probably, if you were doing one of those old school kind of like demo videos for how to play the quarterback position, or the mechanic videos where it's like, okay, this is how you throw, this is the mechanics for throwing to be a quarterback and how you want to throw the football. Justin Herbert is probably the guy you have on that video, and he's a guy he's been really productive. I think he set the record for most passing yards and passing touchdowns for any quarterback in their first 5 seasons. So obviously, he's a very productive, above-average quarterback, but he's not in that elite status yet. And I know there's a lot of people out there that want to put him in that elite status yet. He's not there yet. The guys above him are elite. Obviously, you have Patrick Mahomes. He's in a stratosphere on his own. Then you have guys like Josh Allen, who's been in the playoffs, won a lot of division titles, been in the AFC Championship game, probably going to win the MVP this year. He is in that upper tier. Lamar Jackson, 2-time MVP, played in AFC Championship games, won divisions. He is in that tier. And then I also throw Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow has went head-to-head with Patrick Mahomes, beat him in Arrowhead in the AFC Championship game, has played in the Super Bowl, has won divisions, has played another AFC Championship game where he went toe-to-toe and almost beat Patrick Mahomes again. So he is in that tier. Justin Herbert is not in that tier yet. And the game he had on Saturday against the Texans kind of put him a step back for now. He's got to do a lot of makeup to make up for that game. Justin Herbert threw 3 interceptions all season this year for the LA Chargers. He threw 4 in that wild card playoff game alone. That's inexcusable. Some of them are really bad interceptions as well. Tested Stingley a couple times and lost. And I think he had a pick 6 in that game too. So not a good performance from Justin Herbert. Gonna need him to start winning these big games, push the Chiefs in the division a little bit, win some playoff games to really get into that elite tier status for quarterbacks. So still waiting on him. Still think he can get to that area, but he's not there right now. And I think we're going to need to see maybe a championship run next year to really get him into that conversation. And then Jordan Love. Jordan Love was a quarterback that got a contract based off of 8 games last year. Got a big contract, and I thought it was early for the Packers. Yes, he was great in those 8 games down the stretch last year and the road playoff game in the wild card round against the Cowboys, but he wasn't great, and he kind of got a pass for the game last year into the divisional round against the Niners. And then this year, he's been just a roller coaster. He's been up and down, and we saw the down on Sunday against the Eagles, 3 interceptions, had a couple of bad interceptions as well, and really cost his team the game, I thought, in a lot of respects. They were in this game. Like, Philadelphia was not playing well on the offensive side. Their defense was great. They were not playing well on the offensive side. Jalen Hurts, you could see, was rusty. And Jordan Love played the Packers out of that game. Now, I know there was injuries across the board on the wide receivers, and there was a ton of injuries there, but Jordan Love played them out of the game. So don't love that there from Jordan Love. I think they paid him too early. I think they're having a little bit of buyer's remorse. He still has the top-end talent to be a franchise quarterback in this league, but the jury, in my opinion, is still out on him. And then the last quarterback I want to talk about was a quarterback that played last night, and that was Sam Darnold. And I love Sam Darnold. He went to USC. I watched him play a couple of times in person. Love Sam Darnold, but these last 2 performances, one against the Detroit Lions in the finale of the season, and last night against the Rams, may have cost him tens of millions of dollars. And it's sad to say, struggled in those games. He was kind of going to be the guy going forward for the Vikings. He had just played well in these last 2 games. He didn't have to win them both, but he had played well, given them an opportunity to win. He's probably their guy going forward. He's probably going to get about $40, $50 million a year. Now he's maybe looking at a franchise tag or like a small deal, like a $20 million per year. So cost himself tens of millions of dollars. I still think Sam Darnold can be a starter in this league on a competitive football team, but he's going to have to start playing better in these big games. The last 2 games he's played are no doubt the biggest games of his professional career, and he did not play well, and that is not going to help. I think he still goes into the season as the Minnesota Vikings quarterback next year just because J.J. McCarthy was a project, in my opinion, coming out of college. Then he has the injury, and he has a setback with that injury, so it's going to be a while, I think, before we see J.J. McCarthy as the consistent starter for the Vikings. So I think Sam Darnold still is your quarterback next year, but the question marks have arisen again, and he was able to kind of put them away for most of the season, but they've come back. So I didn't love that performance either, of course. So that was just kind of a reaction that I had. I wanted to talk about those topics here, but let's go ahead and look ahead to the divisional round where we have 4 games, big stakes games, of course. This is the divisional round of the playoffs. 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday. Let's go ahead and start with the Saturday games, and let's go ahead and start with Houston 30 is basically what they should call that Saturday game at 4:30 is Houston 30, and that is the Texans at the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are currently an 8-point favorite in this game. A couple of questions and keys that I have to this game. One is going to be this Texans that second half offensive performance they had in the game against the Chargers and kind of down the stretch in the season, once they got Nico Collins back healthy, they were a much better offensive team. Can they continue that consistency? Can they continue that consistency? Get someone else involved outside of Nico Collins, whether that be Dalton Schultz, one of the wide receivers, maybe even Joe Mixon out of the backfield. Get somebody else involved, because you know that Andy Reid and Steve Spagnuolo and that Chiefs defense is going to pinpoint Nico Collins as public enemy number one for them to stop. So can they get somebody else to pick up the slack? Because you know that Trent McDuffie is probably going to be following Nico Collins around the field, so he maybe not as going to be as effective as he was in that game against the Chargers. So can they find a number two option there? Another question is, most of the Chiefs starters and most important players haven't played a game since Christmas, and they're playing a game on January 18th. So that's almost a full calendar month that they haven't played in a competitive game. And let's be honest, that Pittsburgh game wasn't that competitive. But it's been almost a month since they've played. Is there any rust and rest factor there? Now, this is a Chiefs team that is used to having a first-round bye, so I'm not worried about the first-round bye. It's kind of the longer layoff. You sat your main starters in Week 18, but not only that, your Week 17 game was a Wednesday because that was Christmas Day. So that kind of throws it off. It's been a while since they've played, like I said, almost a month. Is there some sort of rust factor, and can Houston take advantage of that rust factor early on in the game? Because if Houston can get out to an early lead, now obviously the Chiefs can come back. They've come back in plenty of games, especially in the playoffs. Houston had a lead, I think, 5 years ago, a 24-point lead, and then it was 24, and the Chiefs ended up going to the halftime with the lead in the game. So not worried about them coming back in the game. But can Houston get some early momentum? Maybe the Chiefs are a little rusty out the gate. If the Chiefs come out and they're not rusty and they take a lead early in this game, it's probably lights out for Houston. And what's something that's kind of been underrated for this Texans team of late is the pass rush they've been able to get. You got Danielle Hunter on one side, Will Anderson on the other side. They wreaked havoc on Justin Herbert in that opening game. And the Chargers have Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt. Really good bookend tackles, and better tackles, in my opinion, than what the Chiefs have. So can Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter get some pressure on Mahomes? That ankle should be 100% healthy at this point. It's been plenty of time. But as we saw early on in the season with Mahomes, you get a little bit of pressure on him. The tackles are still not really solidified. It's been a lot better, but it still hasn't been great. If you can get some pressure on him, he was prone to throwing interceptions early on in the season. Can they get that out of him as well? And like I said, who emerges as that number two option is a huge question for me on that Houston offense behind Nico Collins. I think there's a chance for a backdoor cover here. Maybe the Texans get a late touchdown. It's a backdoor cover. 8 is a lot of points in the NFL, especially in the divisional round. So I'm going to take the Texans to cover, Chiefs to win. So give me the Texans +8. They cover, Chiefs win the game. And then we'll go to the Saturday night game, and that is going to be in the NFC, and that is the Washington Commanders at the Detroit Lions, and the Detroit Lions are currently a 10-point favorite in this game. And big question for the Commanders, is this the absolute ceiling for this team? A lot of people said, okay, maybe 8-9 wins was a ceiling. Maybe first-round wild card weekend was a ceiling. Now they're in the divisional round, a step away from the NFC Championship game. Is this the absolute ceiling, and is this where we see this Washington Commanders team kind of just be overwhelmed? Because some people thought they might have been overwhelmed on a Sunday night against Tampa Bay. That was not the case at all, of course. But this Lions team is a totally different animal. And this Lions team, the offensive firepower for this Lions team is just, I think it's the best in the league. When you have Jahmyr Gibbs, who's playing at an all-time level, David Montgomery is potentially going to be back, so you have your two-headed monster in the backfield. Amon-Ra St. Brown is probably the best slot receiver and possession receiver in the entire league. Jameson Williams has really kind of emerged as their deep threat, has been actually a pretty consistent deep threat for them. And then you have Sam Laporta, who's a good tight end. And their offensive line is the most underrated part of this team. Best offensive line in the league, in my opinion. So this Commanders team, can you slow down that offense at all? Slow them down, get them out of rhythm at all. Because there has been teams throughout the season that have gotten them out of rhythm. Not consistently, but they have gotten out of rhythm. I mean, this is a 15-1 team. So they're a damn good team. Sorry, it's a 14. Yeah, it's a 15-1 team. So they're a damn good football team. So can you get them out of rhythm? Apologize. They're a 15-2 football team. Can you get them out of rhythm? Because when they start rolling downhill, this offense, they're impossible to stop. When Jared Goff has time and he's able to pick the defense apart, they're able to run the ball with their running backs and then pick the defense apart in the passing game, I don't think anybody in the league can beat them when they're doing that. So can this Washington Commanders team slow down this offense, get a little bit of pressure on Jared Goff? Obviously, he's not a mobile quarterback. Their defensive tackles in Allen and Payne are really good up the middle. Can they get some interior pressure on Jared Goff, get him off his spot, get him uncomfortable, get him out of rhythm a little bit? And then looking at this looking at this Lions team again as well, what was the issue for them down the stretch until the last game against the Vikings was the defense and just the litany of injuries they had on the defense. They got healthier. They got Alex Anzalone back. They're maybe going to get back a couple other starters or position or depth pieces on the defense back for this game as well. Can they pick up where they left off? They were able to get after Sam Darnold in that season finale. Can they get after Jaden Daniels? Can they keep Jaden Daniels contained in the pocket? If this Lions defense plays anything close to what they did in that season finale against the Minnesota Vikings, this is going to be a really, really, really dangerous team. This is a tough one for me because 10 is a ton of points. I thought 8 was a lot of points for the back-to-back champions and the Chiefs. 10 is a lot of points for a Lions team, but this is a Lions team that is hungry. They think this is their opportunity to win a Super Bowl, and I believe it could be as well. Still a lot of points. The backdoor cover comes into play here again as well. I think the Lions win, and I think they get out to a comfortable lead, but I think they take their foot off the gas a little bit, and the Commanders get maybe a backdoor cover. So give me the Commanders plus 10. If the Commanders can make this a tight game, that would be an unbelievable accomplishment, and obviously they can get a win. Wow, that would be unbelievable. But give me the Commanders to cover plus 10. Lions win the game. And then we'll stay in the NFC for the afternoon game on Sunday, and that is the Rams at the Eagles, and the Eagles are currently a 6.5-point favorite in this game. Now, question for me is that Rams defensive front. They were able to sack Sam Darnold 9 times last year, and they have been stout on the defensive front ever since the second half of the season. They have young, good players on the defensive front, whether it's Jared Verse, who's a rookie out of Florida State, Braden Fisk, who's another rookie out of Florida State, Kobe Turner, who was up for the defensive player of the year, defensive rookie of the year last year in his second year. They got after Sam Darnold early and often. Can they get after Jalen Hurts? Because Jalen Hurts struggled in that playoff game. They didn't need him to play well because their defense was playing so well, and Jordan Love was just throwing the ball away to their defense as well. But that was something that kind of went unnoticed a little bit, was Jalen Hurts was rusty in that game, hadn't played in about 3 weeks because of the concussion he suffered against the Commanders in about week 15. So he hadn't played in a while. He looked rusty. He looked out. He didn't look good last week. If we get that same Jalen Hurts performance or close to it this Sunday, they're going to be in a lot of trouble because this Rams team can get after you. They can hit you. And this Rams defense is playing with a ton of confidence right now. They haven't let a team score over 10 points, I think, in the last 10 games or something like that is the stat that's going on there. So this defense is playing really well. The question mark for me in this Rams team is the offense. I think Kyron Williams is a good back. He's not a great back. But the question for me, the bigger one, is the passing game. And can this Rams offense get any sort of production, consistent production in this passing game outside of Puka Nacua? Puka Nacua was basically their whole receiving attack last night. Cooper Kupp only had a couple of catches. They have other guys, DeMarcus Robinson, kind of in and out, had an okay game. Tyler Higbee actually played well in that game as well. Can they get production from Higbee, from Kupp, from DeMarcus Robinson? Because this defensive backfield for the Philadelphia Eagles with Quinyon Mitchell and Darius Slay and Blankenship and the rookie from Iowa that's my name's blanking on right now. These guys are really good. They're really good in coverage. They're really good. They're ball hawk players as well. They can take turnovers and things like that. So can they get some sort of production? Because Vic Fangio and that defense for Philadelphia is going to key on Puka Nacua and not let him be the reason that the Rams win this game. So a lot of question marks there. You know what? Another question mark for the Rams on that defense. You know that they're going to get after the quarterback. Can they slow down Saquon Barkley? Because that is what this offense runs through for the Philadelphia Eagles. It runs through Saquon Barkley. If you could slow down Saquon Barkley and make Jalen Hurts beat you with his arm, the rust factor still may be a little bit there. Maybe there's still a little bit of tension between him and A.J. Brown. That whole reading book on the sideline fiasco thing. He only had a couple targets last week and 1 catch. So if this Rams defense can slow down Saquon Barkley, make the Eagles beat them through the air, that's going to be a huge key for them as well. I think this is going to be a really close game. I think this Rams team, I think you have a coaching edge when it comes to Sean McVay versus Nick Sirianni. You have a quarterback edge when it comes to Matthew Stafford and Jalen Hurts. Now, the Eagles roster is maybe not much better, but is better than the Rams roster. But the Rams roster, I think, is better at the positions that matter the most. So I think the Rams cover. Give me the Rams plus 6.5. And I actually like the Rams money line. I think they actually win the game outright. I'm calling for the upset. I think the Rams go into Philadelphia, get a victory, and move on to the NFC Championship game. And then we'll finish off back at the AFC with the game of the weekend, in my opinion. And that is the Ravens at the Bills. And the Ravens, the road team, are currently a 1-point favorite in this game. This, like I said, is the game of the weekend. You have Lamar versus Josh Allen. This is the MVP debate, is Lamar Jackson versus Josh Allen. Who has the edge in this matchup? Lamar Jackson, you obviously know, could beat you with his arm and his legs. So can Josh Allen. Lamar Jackson is in a really good rhythm right now and has been in a rhythm pretty much through all the season. So is Josh Allen. So these guys are at the peak of their powers right now, playing some of the best football, if not the best football of their careers. Now they're going up against each other. This is going to be a matchup for the ages. I can't wait to see it. Let's go over some of the keys for that matchup. First thing I want to look at is the Ravens defense. Ravens defense has been playing really, really well down the stretch. They struggled early on in the season. They kind of took out some of the older guys in the back end, added some of the younger guys, moved Kyle Hamilton back to his true safety position and kind of where he plays best at, and that's really kind of sparked this defense. Can they stay hot, and can they get to Josh Allen? And when you get to Josh Allen, you have to get him on the ground. You have to contain him, because it's not just enough to get to him and cause pressure. You have to get him on the ground or get him into bad situations where he's uncomfortable. Because Josh Allen is a guy, he can kill you with his legs. Lamar Jackson is the best. He's the best running quarterback in the league, and he's probably the most potent running the ball. I think Josh Allen's the most dangerous with his legs because of his size and his underrated speed. His physicality he runs the ball with, I think, is the most dangerous running quarterback in the league. But another question here is, what defense can get more stops? Because both these teams have good defenses, but these offenses are going to score and they're going to get points. It's just going to happen. You can't keep these two quarterbacks and these two offenses down. What defense gets more stops, or what defense can get a couple of key turnovers? You get a turnover late in the first half and maybe kind of flip the script a little bit. You get a turnover late in the third quarter, flip the script a little bit. What defense can get that big stop, can get that big turnover, flip the script, flip the momentum? What defense can do that? That is a huge key for me here as well. And then the Bills defense. Can the Bills defense slow down Derrick Henry and make the Ravens more of a one-dimensional offense throwing the ball? Ravens are fine throwing the ball with Lamar Jackson, but without Zay Flowers, or with kind of a limited Zay Flowers out there, if you can slow down the rushing attack and make them beat you through the air, it makes it more difficult. Not that they can't, but it makes it more difficult on this Baltimore Ravens team. I think this is going to be an all-time classic game. Of course, they put this on Sunday at the primetime spot. This is going to be a classic. Bills at home, though. Bills at home is huge for me. I'm surprised that the Ravens are a favorite in this game on the road at Buffalo. The temperature is supposed to be maybe in the single digits, but maybe in the teens for this game. That favors Buffalo, in my opinion, because of that offensive line for Buffalo and that rushing attack with James Cook and Josh Allen. I think that favors Buffalo. This is, like I said, this is going to be a classic. I think the Bills win, so that means they would cover. Give me Bills +1 in this matchup. That has been my show, and that has been my reaction to the Wild Card Weekend, just kind of a brief reaction, and my preview and predictions for this divisional round coming up. Again, let me just remind you, if you like this show, the video version of the show, please smash that like, smash that subscribe, leave a comment with some of your picks for the weekend as well here on YouTube. And if you prefer the audio version, please go and like and subscribe to the show on places like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or pretty much wherever you get your podcast. Thank you again for watching and listening, and have a great day.